I think
Jersey
people like
Shore.
you and Rosie O'Donnell should sue mainstream media for what they've done to you. And Piers, I brought some photos of pre-Trump and post-Trump. Look at this. This is Rosie O'Donnell before Trump, right? Nice, good. Look what happens, Piers, with Trump derangement syndrome, all right? Rachel Maddow. Look at how hot Rachel Maddow was. And then look, Trump derangement syndrome. She looks like Stephen Colbert. And then look, Kathy Griffin, someone that I might have hooked up with if I was drunk. They turned her into Carrot Top, okay? That's what it does to you people.
The Trump administration's use of an historic law to deport alleged Venezuelan criminals to El Salvador is back in court today. Judge Boesberg issued an order to halt the deportations made under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, but they touched down in El Salvador a few hours later anyway. President Bukele posted, "Oopsie, too late," before sharing images of them being booked into one of the notorious mega jails he's used to squash gang violence in his own country. Judge Boesberg says the government and its lawyers have been disrespectful. President Trump says the judge is a radical left lunatic. The bigger question is whether a federal judge has the authority to stop the president from carrying out an election-winning promise, and equally, whether the administration is riding roughshod over constitutional checks on presidential power. Bernie Sanders and AOC just wrapped up the final leg of their fighting oligarchy tour, and it's safe to assume which camp many of their supporters are in.
I believe that the minute that Donald Trump decided to start ignoring judicial orders, he gave up the right to be the rightful president of the United States. He's an enemy of the nation, and yes, I'd like to see him hung by his feet by a lamppost.
Charming. And on the subject of the resistance, Rosie O'Donnell may have moved to Ireland, but that doesn't mean she'll be silenced.
I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet.
It was a rigged election. Well, firstly, Elon Musk has many talents and credentials, but owner and manager of the internet is not yet one of them. And secondly, as I just suggested, that sounds an awful lot like democracy-threatening election denial of the very type that people like Rosie lambasted Donald Trump of doing. Well, to debate all this and more, I'm joined by the host of the Michael Knowles Show, Michael Knowles, author of The Red Letter on Substack, Tara Pomeri, the host of Pushing the Limits, Brian Shapiro, and the angry patriot himself, Vinny Oshana from the PBD podcast, looking actually relatively calm at the moment, but there is plenty of time to get him angry. Well, welcome to all of you. Michael Knowles, let me start with you. Extraordinary story overnight of Trump. It was not that extraordinary, I guess, but it was the way it played out. George Clooney goes on 60 Minutes, and he talks about when the other three estates fail, when the judiciary and the executive and the legislative branches fail us, the fourth estate, the media, has to succeed. And Donald Trump responded in his normal, calm, measured way. Why would the now highly discredited 60 Minutes be doing a total puff piece on George Clooney, a second-rate movie star, failed political pundit? He fought hard for CP Joe's election and then right after the debate, dumped him like a dog. So look, a typical robust response, let's put it mildly, by President Trump to Clooney. But there's a bit of merit to what Trump is saying there.
That's precisely right. If Clooney is correct that the fate of America hinges on the establishment media, then I think we should all just pack it in at this point because there's absolutely no hope for the country. What Clooney is saying here has a foundation of political reality in as much as we have different branches of government and we have different political institutions. So we have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, and then we have things like the establishment media, we have things like Hollywood, we have corporate America, we have all other power centers. And sometimes some of those institutions have more power than others. In the 2024 election, people elected, the majority of voters elected Donald Trump in no small part because the so-called fourth estate of the establishment media had failed, had lied to them. You don't need to take my word for it. Look at their ratings. Look at the ratings on CNN. Look at the ratings on MSNBC. Even the established networks on network news, CBS, NBC, ABC, they've all flopped. People don't believe them anymore. And so much of the Trump election was about shifting power to clean out corruption precisely in those quarters.
Yeah, Tara, it's a bit rich, I got to say. I like George Clooney, but I do think that he, along with a lot of people on the Democrat establishment, whether it be political, celebrity, whatever it was, they knew what was going on with Joe Biden. The idea that he only worked it out when he stood next to him at that fundraiser in Los Angeles, and that was the first time he really picked up any clue that Joe Biden had been falling over in public for 2 years. You know, he'd been stumbling and mumbling and gaffing for years. I was writing column after column for the New York Post, not as a conservative pundit, because I'm not. I was just calling it as I saw it.
Right.
This guy was quite clearly, visibly and audibly falling apart before everyone's eyes. So Clooney playing the kind of white knight, saying, you know, I came along and I had to write this piece taking him down for the New York Times because I was raised to tell the truth. I'd seen the president up close for this fundraiser and I was surprised. I felt there was a lot of cowardice and profiles in my party throughout all of that. I'm not proud of that. I believed I had to tell the truth. I'm not really buying the Clooney is the savior here. Are you?
No, and in fact, it's not just you that saw that Joe Biden was not capable of running the country. 2/3 of Americans in poll after poll after poll leading up to the election said that Joe Biden was too old to run for re-election. They saw it with their own eyes. You didn't have to tell them. The only people who were engaged in a consensual delusion were the Democratic Party and its donors and the press that, you know, followed them and their narrative for so long. I mean, even the special counsel, Robert Hur, who they had long hailed as like a beacon of truth and of integrity, said he was an enfeebled old man who I don't think a jury would prosecute or indict because he was too old. The signs were everywhere. And the party just kept saying, eat your dog food, take this candidate, until the emperor had no clothes. But yes, everyone could see that Joe Biden was not capable of running for re-election. If George Clooney wants to pretend that he didn't see it, I mean, that's another delusion.
Yeah. Brian, look, I don't want to labor the kind of Biden was decrepit line, because we've kind of gone over that so many times. What I am surprised about is the seeming inability of the Democrats to really identify the big problem they have. Because I'm looking at Bernie Sanders and AOC going out there, presenting themselves as the answer to the problem. And I'm sorry, but if anyone on the Democrat left thinks that AOC is ever going to win an American election, they are living in cloud cuckoo land. She is precisely the weaponizing, progressive, far woke left problem. She's not the solution, isn't she?
I wouldn't call her a problem, but I do find it interesting that so many MAGA Republicans out there think that their doctors are Joe Biden's personal physician. Going to what you said about AOC, I think she's a very intelligent woman. I think she's an educated woman. And you have people on the right, like Hubba, making fun of the fact that she was once a bartender, which I think, if you want to talk about poor messaging, now you might think that AOC is a little bit too far to the left. I think she's a little bit too far to the left for me. But she's a decent woman. She's intelligent. I think she made a great speech in Las Vegas the other day. I wouldn't call her a problem. I don't know why you would say that she's a problem. Is she the answer? Should she run for president in 2028? I would say probably not. But at the same time, I think her messaging is very good, and I think she's revving up the base.
So here, look, let me give you a hypothetical. We say to her first question, she comes on Uncensored, here's my first question for Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, right? What's a woman? Second question, should trans women be in women's sport? That interview is over in 5 minutes, and she's done. She's toast. Because that's the arm of the party that she represents that just had this stunning repudiation. That's why Trump won. American homeowners are at risk of a growing real estate scam, which the FBI calls house stealing. This is how it works. Criminals forge your signature on just one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and then file it with your local recorder's office. Just like that, your home title is transferred out of your name. Scammers can then take out loans using your equity as collateral, or even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know it's happening until you start getting collection or foreclosure notices. When was the last time you checked your home title? I own a home in the United States, and the answer for me is never until now. That's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud does happen, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and get access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code PEERS or just click on the link in the description. Make sure you check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, to get the protection and peace of mind that you deserve.
So, Piers, I have had some criticism for some Democrats. I think that answer is a very simple one, and I've answered that on your show.
Yes, you have.
But at the same time, I think there are more prevalent issues to be talking about, and I do believe she is talking about those issues. I understand that there are a lot of Republicans out there that are obsessed with that question. There are more important issues to discuss. Yes, I do think they should answer that question. If you're born a man, you're a man. If you're born a woman, you're a woman. Okay, fine, no problem. But let's talk about health care and the fact that Donald Trump does not have a replacement plan. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about a lot of the prevalent issues that MAGA Republicans don't seem to want to talk about. So I think if Democrats can do more of that, I think that would be
But you know
better.
what, Brian? Here's my problem again. Presenting yourselves as they are, as the Trump resistance, that again immediately raises alarm bells to me. It's like we've had 8 years of them being the Trump resistance, the anti-Trump party, the Trump bashing party. The Trump's a Nazi, they're all the new Hitler, all that stuff. It doesn't work anymore. What the American people want to see, what they want to see, they don't want to even, if I were them, I wouldn't even mention Trump. I would just say, here is my vision for the United States of America. And it's got to be a better vision than the one the American people think they're getting with Donald Trump. I wouldn't even mention his name.
But Piers, I think you can do both
when...
at the same time. And I would also, I think you could do both at the same time. And I would also say, Piers, are you willing to say that that didn't happen under Barack Obama? The birther issue and Republicans blasting Barack Obama, and when Rush Limbaugh was on the air playing songs of...
I think that's Piers's point.
Well, that's the point. That didn't work either.
Republicans kept losing when they tried that. So
that didn't work either.
Too.
And it was a very stupid and facile thing to be doing.
Okay, well, they didn't do that with Joe Biden.
There was a time.
Tara, yeah.
Okay, there was a time when a Bernie voter and a Trump voter saw eye to eye, and they saw this in the polling, Trump voters.
Yes.
They saw that they both had a populist vision, and there was a confluence between them. If the Democratic Party can go back to populist roots, they have a shot. If they play in the culture war pond that the Republicans are dragging them into, and because of the creation that they created themselves, they're dragged back into it, they'll lose. But if they're able to go back to that period of time in 2015 and 2016, when Bernie sounded a lot like Donald Trump and what he was saying, then they have a chance. But right now, if they're stuck in the culture war games and they get dragged into them by Republicans, they lose.
Vinny, you've gone from being calm, placid Vinny, to a simmering volcano. I'm just not quite sure why. So off you go.
Well, Piers, you nailed it. They have no message. They have no platform, and they won't change course. It's just Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. And I know we're going to get into Rosie O'Donnell leaving in a while. It's just Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, give me your plan. Give me the vision. Okay, Donald Trump talk the talk, and he's walking the walk. And I get it, the economy, everything, we're going to adjust. Everything is adjusting period right now, Piers. But look at what they're doing. Look, like if Bernie Sanders and AOC are the future, where are all these prominent Democrats with voices? You think Jasmine Crockett? And listen, I don't care how many podcasts Gavin Newsom does. That's your future. I wouldn't even give him the platform. If I was Charlie Kirk and them, why make him look good in the light? Look what he's done with California. Look at his resume. Okay, I'm very curious, as I know you are, Piers. Where are the Democrats that are going to change the party, that have a vision, that aren't going to keep going, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump? Enough of that crap. Sell us on what you're going to make America different than what Trump, what are you going to change that's going to make the country better than what it is right now?
And
Please,
also,
I'm waiting.
Yeah, and Michael, I mean, in a way, Rosie O'Donnell, who Vinny mentioned there, in a way, what she has done is a perfect illustration, I think, of part of the problem the Democrats have, and liberals generally with Trump. She's left the country. I mean, to be honest, fair play to her. She's one of the first liberal celebrities I've known who, having threatened to do it, actually did leave the country. Most of them, like Chelsea Handler, they just pretend they never said it. So she's gone to Ireland. I have to say, as someone who's Irish myself, what did they do to deserve this? But they've got her. And she goes on the big late night show, the Patrick Kilty Late Late Show. I think we got a clip, have we, of Rosie O'Donnell? Let's take a listen to Rosie O'Donnell here.
I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet.
I played that in the monologue, obviously, and I'm playing it again, Michael, because it's really worth thinking about what she's saying there. This is the liberal arm of America that has been ranting for 4 years, with good reason, in my opinion, that Donald Trump has refused to accept the result of the 2020 election, and that he's an election denier, he's a democracy slayer, all these kind of things. Unless I'm mistaken, I played it twice, Rosie O'Donnell is sounding very like an election denier. This election, she may as well have said, it was rigged. It was a rigged election. It was stolen. Elon Musk apparently runs the internet, which will be news to Elon Musk, given he only owns one social media platform of the vast internet stratosphere. So, I watched her there thinking, well, here we have somebody literally leaving America because she can't bear to be there with Trump, but also now election denying, saying it was all rigged, etc., etc. None of that is going to make people want to vote Democrat.
Well, everyone knows Elon Musk doesn't run the internet. The internet is run by Al Gore, who also denied the results of an election before Hillary Clinton denied the results of an election, before Stacey Abrams denied the results of an election. So Rosie O'Donnell's argument here is pretty weak. Also, she's just wrong on the facts. She says no president in American history has ever won all the swing states. Ronald Reagan won 49 states in 1984, and he might have won 50. There were some shenanigans in Michigan. So she doesn't know what she's talking about, and that's fine. Plenty of left-wing celebrities have no idea what they're talking about. But the political problem for the Democrats now is that this is the best they've got. At least in 2020, whatever you think about that election, the Democrats did change all the voting rules right before the election. And in some cases, they contradicted state constitutions, like in Pennsylvania with widespread mail-in ballots. And they moved the ballot drop boxes away from county clerk offices. And at least you can understand why people were a little bit curious. This time around, though, no one's really seriously questioning that. So the best the Democrats have is that the rocket ship electric car man somehow zapped his laser from outer space to win Pennsylvania for Trump. Weak stuff, does not bode well for the midterms, does not bode well for 28 for Democrats.
Brian, there's a lot of head shaking going on, Brian.
He had 200.
Well, I'll come to you in a sec, Tara.
Yeah,
I can't ignore the head shaking coming out of Brian.
Well, it's ridiculous. First of all, Hillary Clinton conceded the next day, Michael. The guy that you voted for is the only president in American history that hasn't conceded an election. Excuse me, I'm not done yet. Al Gore went through and exhausted all of his legal... Al Gore exhausted all of his legal capabilities that he could do, and then he conceded as well. Going back to Rosie O'Donnell, Pierce, real quickly. Rosie O'Donnell does not speak for all Democrats, but here's the advice that I would give to her. Don't do what the MAGA buffoons across this country have done. 6 out of 10 Republicans still think that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. But I'll tell you something Rosie O'Donnell won't do. She won't storm the Capitol, Michael, and she won't beat police officers. The guy who you support has pardoned those people and called them patriots. So who cares what Rosie O'Donnell says? She doesn't speak for all Democrats. And don't try to compare election denying to Hillary Clinton, who conceded, Kamala conceded. The guy who you voted for is still the guy who has not conceded the 2020 election.
Talking about
so stop it with your bullshit, okay?
Can I ask him a question? So, Brian, in 2016, the Russia collusion hoax with Hillary Clinton, that wasn't cheating? The hiding Hunter Biden's laptop?
I'll answer that.
None of that is cheating. But wait, let me finish. You, just like Rosie O'Donnell, have Trump derangement syndrome. And I want to show you something, Piers.
No,
I think, Brian,
you're an idiot.
excuse me, dude, you wouldn't say that shit in my face, so shut up. Number one. Number two,
okay,
I think
Jersey
people like
Shore.
you and Rosie O'Donnell should sue mainstream media for what they've done to you. And Piers, I brought some photos of pre-Trump and post-Trump. Look at this. This is Rosie O'Donnell before Trump, right? Nice, good. Look what happens, Piers, with Trump derangement syndrome, all right? Rachel Maddow. Look at how hot Rachel Maddow was. And then look, Trump derangement syndrome. She looks like Stephen Colbert. And then look, Kathy Griffin, someone that I might have hooked up with if I was drunk. They turned her into Carrot Top, okay? That's what it does to you people, okay? You guys have lost your freaking mind. Oh, excuse me, I'm not finished. And Piers, in that interview, she's like, I can't believe sexual assault, because when Conor McGregor came there, she supported Bill Clinton. How many sexual assault rape allegations Biden the same thing. Biden sniffing kids live on camera all the time. His freaking daughter writes in her diary that her father showered with her at inappropriate ages. She left to freaking Ireland. Do you know what's happening in Ireland, Rosie? Freedom of speech, migration, all the freaking rise in crime. It's unbelievable. And here's my thing, Piers. There's people waiting in line and fighting and dying to come to this country. She wants to leave. To hell with her. Let her give up her spot for somebody else. I have family members that are waiting to come here, Piers. Let them come in and to hell with her.
I don't always pick the healthiest food options. I'm sure you don't either. We're all human and we're all busy. That's why doctors created Field of Greens. One delicious glass of Field of Greens is like nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable in this drink was selected by a doctor for specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism. It's all very complicated, but not with Field of Greens because it's all in there. It gives me energy, but it also gives me the confidence that I can be traveling or, shock horror, enjoying a sneaky burger, and I'll still be getting all the nutrition my body needs daily. Only Field of Greens makes you the better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health, or you'll get your money back. We've teamed up to give you a 20% discount on your first order. Just use promo code PEERS at brickhousenutrition.com/Piers. That's code PEERS at brickhousenutrition.com/Piers. Okay.
Period.
Let me
you
get
leave, stay out.
All right. Brian, quick response, then Tara. Brian.
Yeah, I just want to answer to what Jersey Shore just said real quickly here.
Oh,
First
you're
of all,
so
the guy who
creative.
you support
You
is
should be
a liable.
comedian. You should be a
Excuse
comedian.
me, I'm
You should be a
talking now,
comedian.
and I didn't bring pictures with me.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
bring pictures
Whatever.
with me, to show to everybody.
Right.
So if I
Say
can
it-
just
say what
respond to
you're
what you
saying
just
when
said.
you see me in public.
You didn't
Say
want me
what
to
you're
interrupt
saying when
you.
you see me in public.
You didn't.
See me in public.
Can I respond
Talk all
now
the talk.
without being interrupted?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I respond now? Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
very much.
Go
So
ahead,
first
fake
of all,
news.
you want to talk about Biden's. You want to talk about guys and Biden sniffing kids and sniffing children, and you want to make those type of correlations. The guy who you support is a liable sexual abuser who has 25 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. So spare me with your right-wing talking points and your stupid pictures that you brought to the Piers Morgan show. Nobody cares, Jersey Shore.
Yeah, they do.
All right, Tara,
By the way,
let's-
Mike,
all right,
Jersey
hang on.
Shore's not working. Jersey Shore doesn't work. You're a hack. You suck. Look at your freaking hat.
we all just
You're wearing a hat. What does your hair look like
agree
under there?
that-
Take
Can we
your
just
hat
agree-
off.
All right,
This guy is
gentlemen.
not serious.
Can we,
Let's
I
have a
just
time
wanna-
out. Tara?
First of all, Piers, I have to be honest with you, I forgot the point I was going to make between all of that, but I just think we should all agree that most politicians are creepy, okay?
Well,
They
I
are.
do think it's quite interesting.
part
The
of their
one point I
style.
would say, Tara, was the fact that Rosie O'Donnell made a big point of Trump being a supposed sex abuser and so on. I don't accept personally
Right.
the whole Stormy Daniels thing as evidence of anything. I thought it was a ludicrous case, should never have been brought. Embarrassing for America, embarrassing for everyone involved. However, if you're going to get into the comparison game, Bill Clinton, who's a revered Democrat president.
I mean, they all have a rap
he had
sheet.
sex with an intern in the Oval Office, then lied to the American people about it. He also paid off Paula Jones nearly $1 million over harassment allegations. So let's not pretend that somehow the Democrats are this squeaky clean bastion of morality. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're
The
not.
party of Ted Kennedy.
And just before
And
we
you
get
know,
to Ted
and first of
Kennedy,
all, I think-
or even JFK. I mean, how far do you want to go back? Tara.
Literally everyone you meet. I'm a reporter. I work in Washington. Presidents, they give you a hug for a little too long. They smell you. They're a little creepy politicians on both sides of the aisle. I can tell you stories, okay?
How many presidents have sniffed you in a
and I
creepy
think
way,
all
if you
men
don't
will
mind me asking?
understand. Yeah, they're men with power and money, and they tend to try to use it in a way.
Right.
And they often abuse it. So I'm not to condone what they do. I'm just saying that neither side of the aisle is immune to this.
I totally agree with you.
But my problem is this, Piers. Why is it when it's the left? Like, hold on. Why don't they ever call out their own side? Why? That's why I'm curious. Is why don't they call out? Like you said with Bill Clinton, Biden has the
Because
same
neither
rap
side
sheet
ever
on his.
calls out their own side. Okay. First of all,
but what I'm
neither
saying is,
side
and how
ever calls out their own side.
But who was that psychopath that went after Trump that he had to pay money because she told Anderson Cooper, I think rape is like it's a fantasy. Whatever that nutcase was, whatever. E. Jean Carroll, thanks, Mike. Like, nutcase. And show me one president.
Because
So that means she wasn't raped?
At the end of the day,
Hold on, give me a break.
decided that. So, a jury decided that. Whether you agree with it or not, the jury just so happened to be in New York, and that was obviously, that worked
That's
in her
a jury
favor.
of his peers in New York.
And who am I to deny or to say that what she claimed happened did not happen? And how can you either? I mean, that's her
I
account
believe all
of what
women.
happened.
I was told by the
But you know
Democratic
what?
Party
Tara
to
raises a
believe all
good point.
women.
Hang on, Vinny. Tara raises a good point, though. We have got to the stage now, more than I think ever before, and it's fueled by social media being so tribal. We have got to a stage where people basically react to news stories about their people depending on their political colours. Right? If you're a Republican, if you're a MAGA Republican, you are never going to accept that any of the women-related charges against Trump have any merit whatsoever, but you're going to revel in the stuff involving Clinton. And conversely, if you're on the left, you're never going to accept anything's wrong with St. Bill, but it's all going to pour all over Trump, who's the most perverted president in history. That's where we've got to. And actually to the detriment, I think, of American political discourse. I mean, I call out everybody. I'm quite happy to say I think it was all wrong. Okay? So, I just don't think it shouldn't be that hard.
But Piers, if there's proof,
I agree with you.
I mean, Democrats have their fair line of creeps.
Yeah.
Of course, I agree. But
Absolutely.
And so does the media, by the way.
Anthony Weiner, Bill Clinton. Al Franken.
Yep.
Actually, that was a time when the Democrats took out their own.
But here's the difference.
That was one where the Democrats did.
Because it was convenient
Al
for
Franken.
Brian?
But here's the
that was very
difference.
convenient.
I agree with you. I agree with you guys. What some of the behavior of Bill Clinton, what he did was awful. But you see, Bill Clinton's not in office right now. Donald Trump is in office. And if you bring up his sexcapades and the horrible behavior and the things he's done in his life, all I hear is whataboutism. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He is a liable sexual abuser. He's had 25 women coming forward. So, we can keep talking about Bill Clinton and what happened 30, 40 years ago.
All right, Michael.
This is also beside the point, because I think most of us don't really believe that President Trump is a rapist or anything, to the point that Vinny was just making. E. Jean Carroll went on TV and said that rape is sexy, so she seems a little bit odd. I'm skeptical of her claims. And regardless, though, all of this was known to voters.
But that's not
all
the
of these
only person
allegations,
who's
all the
accused him of
smears.
that.
Excuse me one second. All of the smears.
25 women.
All of this was known to. Excuse me one second. I'll just try to finish my point like a civilized human being. All of this was known to voters, and most voters voted for Trump in November.
Yeah.
So the Democrats can keep trying to throw this stuff out there. Oh, the election was rigged. Nobody, not one person seriously believes that. Oh, Donald Trump is going to gut Social Security. Nobody believes that. We know what Trump campaigned on. Oh, Trump is a monster who's a rapist, murderer, a serial killer. Nobody believes that. So the political question, if we're in this tribal moment,
Or maybe they believe it and they don't
excuse
care.
me one second, the two of you. You have a very difficult time listening to a reasonable argument. If we are in this moment,
I'm listening
what
to you.
argument are the Democrats going to make to convince voters, most of whom voted against them in November?
Well, the interesting argument. Okay, so let me throw an example of an interesting argument they could make, and it involves this whole issue of the Venezuelan criminal migrants that Trump has been throwing out of America. Now you've got a judge there who Trump calls radical left, but Tara, this judge has come out and tried to thwart this happening. Too late for quite a few of them to be deported, some back to Venezuela, some to those notorious El Salvador prisons. But it does seem to be pushing the very boundaries here of where, the pillars of American democracy collide and who has the ultimate say. What do you make of this particular story?
I think it's a great story not a great story, but it is an example. It's probably the most extreme example so far of the president truly getting into a war with the judiciary and pushing the bounds of a constitutional crisis. But I have to say the Republicans chose the right, the right legal battle, because this is so unpopular in the U.S., migration, and there are not a lot of people who want, Venezuelan gang members to stay in the country. So if you were going to get in a war with the courts, this is the case to go for. And truly, the thing is, the president has a military. He has actual ability to command forces. Courts don't. They have really very little power to enforce their rulings, right? And so the power of the courts is really held up by political opinion. So as long as the public is with the courts, they have the power. But in this case, I'm not sure that the public is necessarily with the courts. There are a lot of people obviously concerned about this constitutional clash, right? And the idea that the president thinks that he can overrule the courts. But they also probably side with him on the actual crux of the issue, which is removing gang members from the United States.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Brian, because I think it is the fact that most Americans, when they're told, look, these are pretty bad criminal people, and we're chucking them back either to their country or El Salvador, they're probably not going to be too bothered about whether some judge has decided he doesn't think this is particularly due process.
Well, a couple things here, Piers. First of all, they haven't shown direct evidence that these are all gang members. We've heard about tattoos, and we've also heard stories from family members that some of these people have no criminal records, and that one tattoo was a soccer ball, or he was a fan of a soccer team. Everyone is entitled to due process. I want bad people out of this country if they are gang members, just as much as anybody else on this panel. But the fact of the matter is that everybody deserves due process. And every single time a judge rules against Donald Trump is always the guy that attacks the judge personally, attacks the judge's family, for example. And I don't care how much money this judge's wife has donated to a particular party. That is academic to what we are talking about here. Donald Trump does not respect the rule of law. And this judge ruled on this and made an order on this when one of those planes was still grounded. They attack every judge they disagree with personally, and then when a judge rules in their favor, they're brilliant, they're great. He says the same thing about a judge that rules in his favor as he says about Vladimir Putin. Brilliant, smart guy. I mean, I'm just getting sick and tired of this.
Brian, do you remember when the Dobbs decision was leaked, quite contrary to court tradition, and Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader in the Senate, walked up to the Supreme Court and said, watch out, Justice Kavanaugh, watch out, Justice Gorsuch, you have unleashed the whirlwind. And then a leftist came from California to Washington, D.C. to try to murder Justice Kavanaugh. Could you please spare me the crocodile tears over attacks on judges?
I'll respond to that. Unlike you, Michael, I don't use whataboutism, and I'm willing to go after both sides. I didn't agree with that then.
Sounds like you're going
I don't agree with that now. But you notice what Michael, hold on a second, I'm answering your question. You notice what Michael does? I bring up points of Donald Trump attacking a judge, attacking a judge's character, attacking the judge's wife, and Michael starts talking about Chuck Schumer. You see, because Michael is in his right-wing echo chamber bubble, and he can't. Well, why don't you criticize Trump for going after a judge's family then? Why do you have to bring up a Democrat and Chuck Schumer? I agree with you.
Oh, I'm happy to answer
that. Was wrong
I'm happy to answer that.
I'm happy to answer that. President Trump never said you've unleashed the whirlwind right before a left-wing assassin tried to murder Kavanaugh and potentially his whole family. President Trump pointed out that the judge's order was wrong, was ridiculous. We live in a country with a separation of powers and a balance between the various branches of government. We don't live in a country with judicial supremacy. President Trump was carrying out his rightful duties as president of the United States. To the point raised earlier, most people are on the side of President Trump here. We want to get the face tattooed Satan-worshiping gangsters out of our country. There's nothing wrong or illegal about that. And if the Democrats are going to fall in for Trump's traps like this, he's picking not 80-20 issues, but 95-5 issues here. For goodness sakes, he trolled Democrats into defending paper straws a couple of weeks ago. So if Democrats want to go all in on defending Venezuelan gangsters,
but let me ask you, Michael.
My guest, I can't wait for the midterm.
Oh, but Michael, let me ask you a question. I want to play you a clip from Tim Miller, because one of the people that's been rounded up here is apparently a gay Venezuelan man who may not be a member of the gang at all. Tim Miller said this.
Hey guys, it's Tim. I'm in a hotel, but I couldn't sleep last night after seeing the photos of Andre, the gay Venezuelan that we have been reporting on, who was sent to the El Salvador prison camp to be beaten with no due process. We finally get to see what he looks like. And let me ask you, does this man look like a member of Tren de Aragua? Does he look like a gang member? Look at this person. Is this fucking West Side Story? What do you mean? This guy is a dangerous gang member? This guy was so dangerous that our government had to send him on a plane with no due process to a dystopian hellscape?
Now, he's got a point, hasn't he, Michael? He looks the least likely member of a gang I've ever seen.
I'm always a little skeptical of claims that people like Tim Miller make, but let's just take it for what it's worth. This is the best Democrats have in a mass deportation campaign that was voted for by most voters because we have 11 to 16 million illegal aliens in this country conservatively, and we have organized crime totally controlling our southern border. The best they could come up with is one instance of a guy who maybe shouldn't have been deported. To me, that's not an argument against the deportation system. That's an argument in favor of the great efficiency and effectiveness of the deportation system. So, fine. Tim Miller is going to lose sleep at night because possibly one person who shouldn't have been deported was. I'm more likely to lose sleep at night because of the Laken Rileys of the world, because of the Jocelyn Nungaries, because of all the Americans who have been subjected to horrific crimes because Democrats have not only neglected, but in fact rolled out the red carpet for criminal cartels, murderers and rapists, to run roughshod over our country for decades. And I think that's where most Americans are too.
Okay, I mean, Vinny, I see you nodding away, but I would simply say you can actually be in both camps, can't you? I mean, you can say you want all the bad guys out, and I would certainly concur with that sentiment. If they're a member of this gang, they have no place in the United States. But if you're an innocent gay Venezuelan who seems to have been swept up in this without any apparent evidence that he is a member of this gang, and certainly nothing visible that makes him look like he's anything to do with it, if he is caught up in this net in the wrong way, and is sent to this, El Salvador hellhole prison where he's then beaten repeatedly. As an American, do you feel comfortable about that?
I mean, I obviously, Piers, don't feel comfortable about anybody innocent being prosecuted, deported, anything like that if they're innocent. We don't know the facts. It's just one guy with one case saying, you don't know just because he's gay. I'm from New York, Piers. I know gay gang members that are freaking two of them that have passed away from New York. Okay, so we're jumping to conclusions. We don't know. I'm pretty sure Thomas Holman and all them. And the beauty about the internet and X and his reporting, if he's innocent, trust me, Piers, they'll go and they'll grab him. But I know that Brian talked about the what if-ism. Where are we to this? How do we get to this point? Because the last administration with Alejandro Mayorkas literally let all these people in, all these murderers, all these terrorists, everybody who haven't even done their, hold on, let me finish, okay? And the fact that the left is crying, and this judge, you know what? To hell with that judge. If he's reversing and having flights come back with freaking illegal gang members who want to kill and poison Americans, to hell with him, okay? This is America first. I don't give a shit about these people that are here to freaking call. Tren de Agua, when they were invading those freaking Colorado apartment complexes, what was the governor and everybody saying? No, they're not really doing it. The stuff that you're seeing on TV with your own eyes is fake. It's bullshit because they can't admit that what they did, everybody's feeling it. And Michael nailed it. What about all the girls that have been raped and murdered in the country? Where's all the
but you know what? It reminds me of the argument about the death penalty, right? I mean, I interviewed the West Memphis Three. You might remember them, a notorious case where three teenage young men had been arrested and convicted completely wrongly, as it turned out, with the most heinous crime of abusing and murdering three very young boys. And it turned out they were completely innocent. 27 years they did in jail, right? And they were completely ruined people. Now, the point of the comparison is, the death penalty instinctively, I don't see any reason for really horrific people to stay alive. And then you see a case like that and you realize due process does matter, right? Without due process, then a democracy like America starts to collapse.
But Piers, are you comfortable with a mistake? Wait, Brian, I'll give it to you, I promise. Just, Piers, this is one instance out of all these things.
And we don't know yet, I agree. We don't know the facts yet.
We don't know, Piers, and you don't know if he is a murderer. Everybody here that's sitting here right now, everybody watching, you don't know shit. Nobody here knows anything.
I agree.
So until we do, but Brian, and let me finish, Brian. If he's innocent, do you think Thomas Homan and the Trump administration are going to leave an innocent gay dude in wherever prison he's at? I don't think so. I don't think that's how they're going to roll.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I think once he's offshore, it's not their problem anymore.
Vinny, you're making my point for me. You said it yourself. We don't know all the facts. Here's the problem. The White House hasn't released enough evidence, or really any evidence, other than, well, they have tattoos. And do you guys remember, speaking of the death penalty, the guy who you voted for, Vinny, remember when he said he took a page out of the New York Times in regards to the Parkland Five and said that they deserved the electric chair? And then when they were found innocent on all charges and released, he never apologized. He never retracted because he can't admit he's wrong because he's an infant. Listen, I agree with you. We don't know all the facts. I'm with you 100%. We don't know if this guy who's gay is a gang member or not, right? But here's what we do know. The White House isn't providing us facts. They haven't had due process. Let it be
Why
known
do they have
in
to give
court.
you anything?
Let them
Why do they
have a
have to give you-
defense.
Why'd they have to give
first
you
of all,
anything?
why-
That's
why-
their job. You don't need to know. You don't need to know everything, Brian. Like any mission that we do, anybody
thought that
they're-
this is what the
How do we know
transparency-
who is he connected to? How do we know who is he connected to? Brian, you don't want to blow the whistle on everything. These are things that you
We're
don't know
also-
yet.
Okay.
We're not supposed to
blow
know.
the whistle.
They're
the
operations.
basis of
These are called
this-
operations.
We're misunderstanding the basis of this debate here, too, because the way that Brian is speaking, we need to give all of these people, I don't know, lengthy court appearances, maybe put them up at Club Fed, get them a
Didn't say that.
margarita or something. This is not
say
ordinary.
that.
I'm using hyperbole for rhetorical effect. This is not an ordinary prosecution of, say, an American citizen. President Trump has designated Tren de Aragua and various groups as foreign terrorist organizations. President Trump has invoked a longstanding American law, the Alien Enemies Act. We have had an invasion that has been encouraged by Democrats for decades, and so we need to take swift action. And just those two measures alone open up greater avenues for
But
deporting
Michael, are
these
you
people, which we
comfortable? Are
must
you
do.
comfortable with the definition of America being at war in that scenario? Because that seems to me to be the crux of the debate about using that particular act to do this. Because it's supposed to be when America's in wartime, and that's the argument. It's like, look, obviously there's been a huge influx of people coming in illegally over the border, but is that the same as America being at war?
Certainly. This isn't just a random scattering of people who are crossing the border. What we're talking about here is an organized, extremely violent criminal element with total control over our border, working in concert, in some cases, with hostile foreign governments. What else would you call that but a war? You know, this is not just some economic migrants
Tara?
seeking a better life. So to talk about Tren de Aragua
I just think
or
that if
MS-13...
this was truly a war, they gave up the front. There's no one even crossing into the border anymore if this was truly a war. I mean, literally, I have sources on the ground and at the border, and they say there are 0 crossings. The people who got in, got in, and they're hiding.
By the way, can we have a moment? Can we have a moment to just say? Can we have a moment to say that under Joe Biden, it's reported that up to 10 million people crossed that border illegally in 4 years, and you're saying, Tara, what many people are reporting now, that Trump has basically stopped it stone dead. I mean, that's an amazing achievement, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Weird.
Exactly. And if this was a war, they wouldn't stop that. They would be fighting us at the border to continue that incursion. Now,
Sarah,
is there
you're
a
proving the
problem
point.
that we have gang members who have managed to get in? You're absolutely right. But the idea that there is a war between Mexico and the U.S. is absolutely absurd.
Well, I think,
They
to
would
be
still be
fair,
trying
I think what
continue
Michael
their
was doing.
incursion.
Well, hang on, I think what Michael was doing was saying that the comparison would be to an organisation like Al Qaeda, ISIS, and so on, where they're a group of effective terrorists. And what they're doing is waging a war that way without actually waging a conventional ground war or whatever. In other words, they're committing acts of terrorism and therefore should be classified as being at war with America.
Precisely. That's why we have a category for foreign terrorist
I mean-
organizations. And that's why President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act.
Tara, has that convinced you?
I'm not entirely convinced. Like, I just haven't seen enough of that. I haven't seen like the levels of violence to suggest a war.
Okay, I
Ask
think
the
I've got to
people in
say, I think
Colorado.
some of these illegal migrants that have come over have committed horrific acts, including terrorism. So,
The cartels that control the border.
I'm not completely
some of the
wedded
most violent
to
people in the
Michael's
world.
argument, but I do understand it, and I do see why the Trump administration is trying to use that act. It's it's how you categorize it. Anyway, I want to end on 2 lighter notes. We may even find agreement here. I don't know. Brian, I'll start with you. I want to show you a picture of Donald Trump. This is from the Colorado state capitol and has caused Trump to go completely nuts at the radical left Democrat Governor Jared Polis, demanding he remove this eyesore, saying many people in Colorado have called him to write and complain about this. It was unveiled first in 2019 during Trump's first term in office. But it's obviously been brought to his attention. The artist is a woman called Sarah Baldwin. Now, look, Can we all, I think we should all agree, Brian, it's a very unflattering picture of a man who takes his appearance very seriously.
Well, you're right. He does take his appearance very seriously with his 4 hair transplants and his fake teeth and his 8 layers of orange makeup. But I will say this, Piers, we might agree on this. He has the right to replace that picture. What he shouldn't have the right to do is replace a picture frame of General Milley in the White House with the picture of himself and his mugshot. I don't have a problem with him replacing this picture, but let's all be honest here. He's probably the most insecure man on the planet. And it's not a great picture, I'll agree with you. But if he wants to replace that with his mugshot picture, go at it. But don't be taking down pictures of 5-star generals. That's my point.
I mean, Vinny, I think the point about this is that I think it was done deliberately. Anybody who puts that portrait up in an official building, as they've done in Colorado, that governor, he knows what he's doing, right? That governor's done this because it's a terrible picture of Trump.
100%, Piers. I mean, that's just freaking... It makes me laugh because I can just see the artist obviously drawing it. Definitely does not like Donald Trump.
No,
but
hates
Brian, I
him.
got a question. If Donald Trump was to take a photo down of Mark Milley, is General Milley, is that the Milley that you're talking about that got a security clearance removed? Is that the same general? The general that was in during Trump that was saying that if China, the one that said that if we're going to go to war, he would call China and go behind the president's back and do all that stuff. That, my friend, as a military veteran, is called treasonous. So he could take down whatever photos of whoever the hell he wants. You know what you're not talking about? Did you see what he did, Trump? Piers, he took the Constitution and brought it upstairs and put it upstairs and put a curtain around it because he said that that's where it's supposed to be, bro.
Well, you know what he did? You know what he did, which I was very pleased to see? He put Churchill's bust back in the Oval Office. Any president that does that will always have my heart and mind. Tara, what did you think of this portrait?
I mean, of course, like this is the stuff you can't control, right? And I think when you're a celebrity and the news desk doesn't like you and they choose the most unflattering pictures to put in the paper. You know this, having worked in the newspapers. There's full discretion. This is freedom of speech. It's art, you could say. And you know, if you piss off half the country, this is what you're going to get. You're just going to have to deal with it. But I do think it's
And by the way, I would point out that if he really was a dictator in the same context as somebody like Kim Jong-un, if an official in an official building in North Korea had pulled that stunt on Kim Jong-un, you'd really find what a dictator does. And it wouldn't be ranting on social media about how unfair it is, right? They'd be taken to a gulag for the rest of their lives. Michael, I want to go to Michael about something else actually, which is about it seems to me, cutting through the whole story, you would like me to become the new monarch of the United States. And I'll explain the method to my madness here, because I've been on about this for a long time, ever since King George III screwed things up so badly for my country. And you celebrate this nonsense on, obviously, Independence Day every year. You know, if it hadn't been for George III, you could literally still be a monarchy and I could be King of America, which would be probably a very good thing for all of you. So I've laid my cards on the table with that. But Michael, you want the first step to be made. You want America to join the Commonwealth, where King Charles, obviously, King Charles III, would then be the boss. I'm all in favour of this, but are you aware of what you're doing here? This is a slippery slope, is it not, to you embracing the return of the British monarchy to oversee you? You will be under British monarchical rule.
Piers, I want to state right now on television, I would prefer you to be King of America over AOC or Bernie or Chuck Schumer, or really many, many other people in America. So I'm following President Trump's lead here, okay? Don't shoot the messenger.
No.
President Trump has suggested that he would be open to an offer of joining the Commonwealth of Nations from King Charles. Worth pointing out, listen, I'm a descendant of an American Revolutionary War patriot, son of the American Revolution, okay? Simon Knowles, so I got good bona fides here. However, to join the Commonwealth does not necessarily require a republic to recognize the King of England as the head of state. We could join any number of republics in the Commonwealth who do not do that. However, what it is to signal something really deep here, which is that we have something in common. As Justice Scalia pointed out, our heritage is the English heritage. I look Italian, but when I go to Italy, I feel less at home than when I go to England, although now England is kind of Pakistan, so it's got its own problems too. But in any case, we recognize there are deeper cultural well springs to our country. It didn't begin
in 1965. It didn't begin in 1776. Didn't even begin in 1620 with the Mayflower. But it goes back all the way through the history of Western civilization. So if we want to make our civilization great again with a world historic figure like President Trump, not so bad to associate with the people who share our heritage.
Making America English again. I'm all for it.
So
Vinny. Well, Tara first. Tara, you want to jump in?
Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say this is just Trump normalizing the idea of a monarchy. I think he enjoys the idea of monarchs, gilded life, and it just sort of trickle down the idea into people's heads, and then one day.
Vinny, are you ready for King Piers? Which is the obvious extension of all this?
And I see Brian shaking his head. I'm with Brian. No, I like America just the freaking way it is, with all our problems, with all our ups, with all our downs, with all the rigged elections and all that shit. Keep it over there. I think this is Trump probably trolling again. But I see Brian. I know Brian's going to piggyback.
Yes.
I want America to stay exactly the hell. Listen, as messed up as we are, Piers, as all the problems, as much shit as people talk, this is still the greatest place in the history of the world, and I want nothing to change.
You know what? You are, for one reason only, you are clearly the second greatest because you all speak my language, English, don't you?
I can't believe I agree with everything he just said. Breaking news, by the way, I can't believe Michael Knowles just admitted that he follows Donald Trump's lead. I can't believe that. That's shocking. But I would also say Donald Trump is the same guy who said that I'm shocked that I'm sure you followed Joe Biden's lead and every Democrat. But anyway, that's beside the point. This is the guy who said he wants to own Gaza. This is the guy who said he wants to own Gaza. This is the guy who said he wants Canada to be a part of the United States of America. When are we just going to realize that this guy is batshit crazy? He says a lot of ridiculous things. And sadly, he's the president of the United States. We should take what he says seriously. But in this case, I don't take this situation seriously.
Okay. I want to end very quickly, Michael, just quick yes or no on this. You got into some weird spat on social media about this show with a streamer called Sneako, who said that you backed down from an interview with Sneako on this program. In fact, just to clear things up, we got Sneako to agree, but you knew nothing about it. He was going to come on, but you were at no stage going to do it with him, and in fact, therefore, could not have bottled it, as he's trying to suggest. But it just prompted the question: if we can make it happen, are you ready to go head-to-head with Sneako on Uncensored?
I suppose so. I don't really know Sneako. I don't know anybody named Sneako. So I was sort of taken aback when I was accused of dodging a debate with Mr. Sneako. So I'm glad you cleared that up, that I was never brought into the loop on this. I don't know if he's a smart guy, if he knows anything about anything. I suppose I'm happy to debate him. But in the meantime, I think I need to come up with my own nom de plume.
Yes.
Sneako is such an interesting kind of nickname. People just call me Michael. I don't know what my cool Zoomer or streamer name is going to be, but maybe people can workshop it.
I think we should put it to the social media test and ask them, what should we bill you as in the showdown with Sneako? We'll make it happen. Thank you. Great panel. Really enjoyed that. Thank you all very much. Well, joining me now is the Mayor of Knox County, Glenn Jacobs, formerly known as Kane. Well, this is a great moment for me, Glenn. And let me just start by saying I've seen you in action as Kane. My sons were massive WWE fans. So when I told them today that you were coming on Uncensored, they were ecstatic, especially my oldest son, who described you as in his top 2 Hall of Famers ever.
Well, thank you. And I apparently am in presence of royalty, so I'm glad to be on.
Well, the other thing is, as a weird coincidence, I turned 60 this Sunday, and apparently The Undertaker, your great mate from WWE, he turned 60 today.
Yeah. He's about that age. So, well, happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to him.
None of this is why we got you on, of course, but it was, it puts it in context for those who may not be aware of your previous career. You're now very much in the political world. You're a mayor in Tennessee. Before we get into specifics here, Trump's been in charge now for about 9-10 weeks of his second term. A lot of people view it as like total anarchic chaos. A lot of people see, and I'm one of them, who see method to the madness, not least the impact on the border, not least his efforts to try and forge peace in Ukraine and in the Middle East. And again, also with the tariffs. I can see a plan here, even if people don't like it, and I can see what he's trying to achieve. What's your overview of how Trump's doing so far?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Trump 2.0. I think he's done a great job. And as you say, there is a method to all of this. The folks on the left will call it madness, but when you see what's been accomplished and what he is trying to accomplish, even with the tariffs, I'm not a big tariff person myself, but they're not, we're just going to slap tariffs on everybody. These are literally, he's talking about free trade here. Hey, you drop your tariffs, we'll drop ours, and so forth. He's done a magnificent job on the border. Our Constitution does not mention education as a power of the federal government. Of course, he's moving to move education back to the states, where I believe that it always belonged anyway. So what we're really seeing, and I think this is what makes people so uncomfortable, is it's transformational. And it's not just the same old, same old. Of course, there's going to be some bumps in the road along the way. There's going to be some hiccups and things that don't go like we'd all like to see them go. But that's what happens when you have moments like this. Overall, though, I've been just ecstatic with nearly everything that he's done.
It's really interesting to me that on the southern border alone, the impact has been quite extraordinary. I mean, the reports coming off the border, almost nobody is now coming in illegally on the southern border, which is just a startling development given what happened in the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I was there a while back. I guess it was 18 months ago or so. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty invited a group of local officials to go down to Eagle Pass, which is where the epicenter of the crisis at that time. By the time that we got there, Texas had taken control and it wasn't nearly as bad. But when you hear the stories from the people who live in Eagle Pass, there was a rancher there who has a 2,000-acre ranch and he couldn't run cattle anymore because his fences were cut all the time. And it really was a humanitarian issue, not only for the Americans on the southern border, but the people coming across the border. And the cartels have switched from drug trafficking being their main source of revenue to now human trafficking. So it's a horrible situation, humanitarian, no matter which side of the issue that you're on. And they've taken care of it. And as you said, it's extraordinary to see what's happened in just a few months.
Well, let's cut to the reason we booked you today, the primary reason, which was that Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, of course, who was Kamala Harris's running mate, went on the Gavin Newsom podcast and he said this.
You got to respect people you disagree with, and you can't just dismiss people. This
How
notion
do you fight it?
And well, this notion
I think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they wanted to. I know I can outrun them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
Well, that did prompt you to respond, understandably. All joking aside, Governor Walz has put our money where our mouth is in a charity wrestling match. We'll split the gate 50-50 between our chosen organizations. I'll kick things off with a $10,000 donation. What do you say? Now, my first question, have you had any response from Governor Walz?
I have not, which is really surprising. I thought at this point they'd reach out to me. But I have had a lot of response from other people. And with pledges from credible sources, we probably have about $100,000 pledged, as well as I do have a corporate title sponsor for the event. So I think that we could raise a lot of money for charity.
Well, you are, I believe, 6'8" and over 300 pounds, famed for your choke slam, one of the most dangerous wrestlers in WWE history, and your mate was called The Undertaker. If I'm Tim Walz, I'm swerving this one.
Well, one thing you have to remember, though, I'm 57 years old myself. It's not like I'm a spring chicken. I haven't wrestled a match in 6 years at this point. And if we need to even the odds, I'll wrestle with my hand tied behind my back. I'll wrestle blindfolded. Anything that make him feel comfortable, I'll do it.
How far would you go? I mean, obviously in WWE it was all theatrical, but it took a lot of skill. I watched it close up, and it took a lot of skill for big guys to do that in the way that you did it. If you actually got in there with Walz and he started really hitting you, how would you respond? Could you kill him with your bare hands?
I don't know that I'd actually feel it if he actually started hitting me. But nevertheless, no, this match would be safe. Obviously, it's for fun and for entertainment purposes. I promise Governor Walz and his family, he would not get hurt. I would be in professional like I always have been. If you ask the people I've worked with, I've always been safe. I make it look real, but I don't hurt anybody. And ultimately, I think that if he were to to call me and say, hey, Mayor Jacobs, I'm going to take you up on this. And we would have some fun. And at the end of the day, yeah, we'd still have big political differences, but I think we'd walk away friends.
What does it say about him that having acted the Billy Big Balls, as we would call it in England, on Gavin Newsom's podcast, there's been a deafening silence? Now you've called him out on it.
I think, you've spoke out a lot against wokeism, and I think this is a legacy that still permeates through the Democrat Party, and they're trying to figure out how to change their image. And now what's happened is, for Governor Walz anyway, the pendulum has swung so far the other way. I guarantee you there's been a memo come out from their consultants and their folks on that side saying, hey, we need to act tougher. And the way that you be a man, the way you act tough, that's not it. I mean, that's just talking a big game. And as I see it, the issue is it's just not being authentic. Just be yourself. Look, we're all not going to be big, tough guys. We all understand that. But be yourself and be authentic. And don't try to play a professional wrestler on TV if you're not one. Just be yourself.
I mean, he went on to say, I think I scare them a little bit about Republicans, which is why they spend so much time on me. I'm serious because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshitting on this. Do you feel personally threatened by Tim Walz's truck-fixing masculinity?
No, I grew up on a farm in Missouri. I can fix some stuff too. And then again, but and it's also, again, he has to say BS, but actually use the word. And I think that's just to prove how tough I am. I'm going to get out there and curse and kind of act like just a big tough guy. And again, it's not appropriate for someone in his position. It wouldn't be appropriate for someone in my position. So I just think it's an image problem that the Democrats are desperately trying to overcome.
Well, they have a masculinity problem and they have a woman problem in the sense that most of them don't even want to say what a woman is. They think it's fine for biological men to be in women's sport and so on. I mean, this is why they're polling so low, because a lot of what they say just makes no sense, even to people like me that used to skew slightly liberal, but are certainly barreled to the center pretty quickly, because I have nothing in common with these people.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if, say for you, if your political positions have really changed that much, or if they just left you behind.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about the Republicans have gone to the far right. My political positions have not changed very much over the years. It's just they have skewed the spectrum so far to the left, and it is hurting them. And they are losing ground with just people that literally have common sense. But especially with young men, when you say toxic masculinity and you attack men, what do you think is going to happen? They're tolerant and we're accepting of everybody. But for years they were not accepting of men. In fact, men became the enemy, and that's coming back to haunt them now.
Yeah, I do think that's right. And I think it's also why a lot of young men have gravitated to influencers like Andrew Tate, who's been in the news recently because he's gone back to America and stuff. And I've interviewed Tate. He's a smart person. There's no question of that. He's very fast talking. He's very super confident. A lot of the messaging he gives is perfectly fine about wanting young men to take care of themselves, be fit, be positive, and so on and so on. But there's a streak of really unpleasant misogyny that runs through people like him, which I think has, that is, in a way, that is fermenting genuine toxic masculinity. It's the worst type of masculinity where men assume they're superior to women. Women should stay at the home, not go to work, not do this, not do that. That's the problem, I think, with people like him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. In your last panel, you kind of referred to this with immigration, and how now the pendulum is swinging so far the other way because of what happened over the past several years. So that is something that we do have to be concerned about. For me, it's about strong people. It's not just about masculine men. It's also about strong women as well. And one of the things that I take from all of this and from what we've seen over the past several years with the Democrats in control is they do want weak people, because they want people who are dependent on government, who aren't going to question things, who don't think critically, who aren't strong-minded. It's not about big physical strong men. It's about people that are strong-willed, self-confident, strong-minded, and want to think independently and think critically about issues. And that's for folks that want to run and control everything. That's the worst possible thing that they could face.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's interesting, your journey into politics, because you never really bothered with it in your wrestling years.
And the reason I got into politics was just because I was very concerned about the way the country is going. I'm a product of the American dream, as I said. I grew up on a farm in Missouri. My family didn't have a whole lot. My mom and dad are hardworking people, great people, salt of the earth, but just at times we struggled. And from that beginning, I found something I was good at. I was able to travel the world and do so many amazing things, live an incredibly blessed life. And I think that that's only possible in a place like America, where we have a free enterprise system and the American dream that all of us can take advantage of. So the reason I got into politics was to make sure that the American dream, the freedom to utilize your gifts and skills, is still going to be there for the next generation.
Yeah. Linda McMahon, you obviously know very well from your time at WWE. She's now the Secretary of Education, obviously the wife to the former WWE co-founder, Vince McMahon. What did you make of that career change for her?
Well, Linda has been involved in politics for quite some time. She ran for Senate twice in Connecticut. She was actually on the Connecticut State School Board as well. And when it comes to business, Linda is top notch. We all think about WWE as being Vince McMahon's creation, and he certainly was the visionary behind the company. However, it was Linda in the back office that ran the business end of things for many years. In the first Trump administration, she was his small business administrator, and now she's with the Department of Education. So she does have a pedigree, not only business, but also education and politics as well. And I think she's going to do a great job. And I think eventually she's going to work her way out of a job.
I think we've got a clip of you and Linda, which should be quite entertaining for people who haven't seen it before.
I know which one this is.
Let's take a look. And some might categorize that as toxic masculinity.
Well, I think Tim Walz probably saw that and realized, this is a really bad idea.
The tombstone move.
Obviously, that's entertainment. And I will tell you this about Linda as well. She was a great entertainer. And when we did that particular bit, no matter what, even though she knows that I'm going to be safe with that move, it's still, you have to be mentally tough to be willing to put your body on the line like that. And she was willing to do that. So I have a lot of respect for her, not only as everything I just said, but also as well as a human being.
Did you watch the streamer series on Vince McMahon, which obviously a lot of stuff about, pretty damning allegations about misconduct and so on? I mean, A, did you watch it? And B, what did you think of it? And see, how relatable was that to your own experience with him?
Yeah, I actually didn't watch it. I mean, obviously, I heard all about it. I was not involved in that side of the business, so I can't talk to any specific allegations. As far as my relationship with Vince, he was always more than fair to me and treated me very well. He's an honest business person. There's a lot of folks out there, I think, that Vince gets a bad reputation from people, frankly, that have made a lot of money because of him, but for whatever reason, just think that they weren't treated fairly. All I can say is, in my case, I was treated fairly, and my time in WWE was very good for me. It was very good for my family. I wouldn't have the life that I currently have if it wasn't for WWE.
Just want to end with the fact that Donald Trump, obviously years before he ran for president, would pop up at pro wrestling events. He's a member of the WWE Hall of Fame, I think. Trump, when you saw him then, did you ever think in a million years that not only would he become president once, but he then regained the White House? I mean, you couldn't make up that kind of story in WWE.
No, but that's actually was one of the impetuses for me to get into politics. I'd kind of been around the edges for a long time, but when Trump won in 2016, I thought if Donald Trump can become president of the United States, Glenn Jacobs might be able to become mayor of Knox County. But it just shows you that, Trump is one of those people, and of course it's a timing issue as well. But he's one of those people, when you're going back and talking about strong-minded individuals, that's what he is. He is an alpha male. He is someone who pursues success. And, whether you like his style all the time or not, he achieves it.
Glenn, great to talk to you. And you'll have made me a very popular father with my sons, who will be watching this later and feeling enthralled. I finally got to interview one of their all-time heroes. So thank you very much for sparing the time.
Thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.